The woman shot herself in the head but survived because the gun she fired was the one in the other hand. As the gunshot rang out, the accomplice hiding behind sprayed blood onto the balcony at the same time, creating the illusion for passers-by that he had killed himself on the balcony. Then he sat up and crawled out of people's sight. The accomplice then brought a female corpse that looked very similar to her. After destroying the face, they sent it to the morgue. When everyone believed the suicidal bride was already dead, she had already put on the veil and quietly slipped out of the house as if nothing happened. But her husband did not care at all. He even went to a foot massage parlor that same day, not knowing that this whole act was performed just for him. That night the bride appeared again wearing a veil. After killing the heartless man, she deliberately turned back and glanced at the police, then eerily disappeared into the street, creating the illusion of a vengeful ghost taking lives. But this act had a fatal flaw. The corpse in the morgue would eventually be recognized, so the last step was also the most critical step, entering the game with her own life. Just like that, the bride let her companion kill her using the same method of a gun in the mouth. In the end, they used their connection with the coroner to swap the real corpse with the fake one. This way anyone who investigated would not discover anything unusual. Very soon the ghost bride shooting case instantly took over the headlines everywhere. For a while people were filled with panic. As the overwhelming public pressure kept growing, the inspector could only ask the supposedly all-powerful detective Holmes for help. But when Holmes arrived at the morgue with Watson, they discovered the rumored ghost bride was tightly chained to the morgue table. The staff said only this way could stop her from coming back to life and killing people. But as a materialist, Holmes thought this behavior was extremely foolish. Lying on the table was just a corpse. Dead people do not come out and kill others. The killer must be someone else. Watson beside him guessed, could this be the work of a twin? But the police immediately rejected that theory. They had already investigated that the bride was an only child. She did not even have any brothers or sisters. Just when everyone was confused, the coroner Hope revealed something even stranger. There were obvious bloodstains on the fingertips of the female corpse, but there were none before she was tied up, and a word appeared on the wall of the morgue. It was exactly the same word the bride shouted before she died. All of this seemed to be telling everyone that the killer was the bride who had already died. But how could a dead person kill anyone? Just when the inspector and Holmes were at a loss, the case suddenly made new progress. The wealthy man in town was eating breakfast when he suddenly received a strange letter.
Eustace, what does this mean?
Death.
What?
It means death.
From that moment the rich man became extremely paranoid. He claimed the ghost bride would come to take his life, and he even saw the shadow of the ghost bride outside the window.
Look! Look!
But his wife saw nothing at all. Before dawn, when the wife woke up, she found the rich man missing. She searched everywhere, and finally found her distraught husband inside the plant maze in their house. But at that moment, the ghost bride slowly appeared in front of the couple. She slowly approached the two of them, and gave the rich man a prophecy of death.
This night, Eustace Carmichael, you will die.
The rich man's wife went to Holmes, hoping he could save her husband. After understanding the situation, Holmes suddenly burst into laughter. He felt this was a good opportunity to reveal the truth of the ghost bride, but her husband needed to act as bait. Very soon, Holmes and Watson arrived at the rich man's estate. They thought after a murder had already happened, the rich man would hold nothing back. But when Holmes asked about his past with the ghost bride, he became vague and said it was all just his wife's imagination. Holmes did not expose his guilty behavior. Instead, he instructed the butler to close all the windows and make sure to cut off every escape route for the ghost bride. They wanted to see exactly who dared to pretend to be a ghost in front of Holmes. Soon night quietly arrived under thick fog. Holmes and Watson hid in a carriage outside the house waiting for the prey. The two guessed that between the rich man and the ghost bride, there must be a secret that nobody knew. But before they could finish speaking, the figure of the ghost bride suddenly appeared. She was wearing the same wedding dress from before her death, and a veil on her head, just like a ghost. At this point even I would think the killer was a ghost, but Holmes still believed it was someone pretending. To confirm his idea, they quickly ran over, but surprisingly, the ghost bride disappeared right in front of them. Immediately afterward they heard the sound of a window shattering, and the scream of the rich man's wife. Holmes instantly sensed something was wrong. He quickly broke through the window and prepared to go upstairs alone. Watson stayed behind to block the only exit, but when Holmes reached the upstairs, he only saw the corpse of the rich man. He was completely confused. How was this even possible? He had been guarding the door the whole time, and had not seen anyone.
You promised to keep him safe, you promised.
Facing the accusations from the rich man's wife, Holmes had already lost his usual elegance and calmness. Meanwhile Watson on the other side witnessed a scene he would never forget for the rest of his life. Watson was so frightened that he ran away. After meeting Holmes in the hall, the two returned again, but the ghost bride had already disappeared. After so many years of solving cases, the strangeness of this case far exceeded Holmes' previous understanding. The bride's corpse was clearly tied up tightly in the morgue, so how could she still pass through walls and kill people without being seen? Holmes, who firmly believed in atheism and was extremely proud of his intelligence, felt a deep sense of frustration for the first time. When the two returned upstairs again, they actually found a note on the corpse. It was something that was not there when he first discovered the body. When Holmes saw the handwriting on the note, he turned and left immediately. Watson did not understand and quickly stepped forward to lift the note. Only then did he see the words written inside. It was the signature greeting of Holmes' greatest enemy, Moriarty. But Moriarty had clearly shot himself long ago. Holmes was extremely confused. He went to find his brother for answers. His brother told him the truth had never changed. He was just blinded by the fog in front of him. After receiving his brother's confirmation, Holmes finally felt more at ease. After returning home, he began walking through his mind palace, trying to connect all the clues together. But to an outsider who did not know the truth, he looked like he had once again fallen into madness. What nobody expected was that his mortal enemy also appeared here, and right in front of Holmes, demonstrated shooting himself again. But the next second, he suddenly came back to life completely unharmed.
You blew your own brains out. How could you survive? Why aren't you dead? Because it's not the fall that kills you, Sherlock.
The hint from his enemies surged into his mind like a tide. He remembered the time he once faked his own death to solve a case. Although he jumped off a building, he landed on a cushion in the end. How someone falls is not important. What determines life or death is how they land. So in this case there is only one truth. The bride never died at all. She only faked the appearance of suicide. Holmes quickly took out all the clues and compared them one by one, finally confirming his theory. He understood everything. He figured it all out. Then Holmes brought everyone to a church, and there he revealed the truth of the entire case. On the day of the incident, the bride firing the gun in public was not out of anger. It was to create panic, and then create the illusion of suicide. But Watson raised an objection, because he personally examined the corpse, and was certain the dead person was the bride herself. However, Holmes said, that was because she wanted her death to have greater meaning, and in order to make the story of the ghost bride killing people more convincing, she had to sacrifice herself, then swap herself with that corpse. After that they only needed to wait for someone to examine the body, and the ghost revenge story would become flawless. The reason the bride was willing to sacrifice her life was not only because she had severe tuberculosis, but also for their great cause, which was to win the war for women's rights. They wanted to fight for the right to vote. Just as Holmes was still explaining the case, all the women in the church removed their hats, and they were the masterminds behind everything. Everyone joined together, using the ghost bride legend to kill those bad men. But how did he know the killers were in the church? Because the place in town where the most women gathered was here, and it was also perfect for secretly holding meetings and planning. The ghost bride that appeared after the bride's death was actually them in disguise. As for the ghost bride's shadow Watson saw, it was completely a pepper illusion they created with glass. But Holmes suddenly continued speaking, revealing that the ghost bride Watson saw the second time was actually the rich man's wife who invited them to investigate the case. But he still could not understand why the rich man's wife would invite them to stop a murder she was planning herself.
Of course it doesn't make sense. Not real. Oh, Sherlock. Peekaboo. No, not you.
Suddenly Holmes woke up from the dream, and Watson had returned to his younger appearance. It turned out everything was just a dream, which also caused many parts to feel unreasonable to us.